Good evening and welcome to another Blender tutorial. Today I'm going to attempt to show you how to rig a character. So I'm going to open up this little guy. This little Oktoberfest guy I've been working on for my work, which I don't know if they'll actually let me do anything with him or not. But anyways, he's done being modeled for the most part, so figured, what the heck, I'm gonna rig him. Might as well show you guys my technique, if you're willing to learn, or if you're wanting to learn, or if you care at all. Anyways, usually I texture them first before I rig. I usually model, texture, rig, and then animate, but I'll go ahead and show you how to rig, or how I rig, before I texture. Anyways, okay. Typically I put everything onto a different layer. Hit M, put that on that layer there. I like to have just the model on the layer I'm working on, so I don't have all this distractions with the the dotted lines for the lights and all this stuff. So go ahead and grab all these, camera 2, and that light right there. Okay, hit M. I like to put those over in that corner there. So that's all my lights and camera and everything on that layer right there. So anyways, back in here. Okay, so now we just got the model. I think I might have put his shoes in there too. That's fine. I'm going to take all his clothes and put those in the same layer as the shoes, which is that second one right there. Okay. And his beard and mustache and hair and everything are also different mesh items, so I'm gonna go ahead and put those in that layer also. So now we just got the basic model. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off subsurf on him just so it'll be a little faster. It won't be significantly faster because it's pretty fast already, but anyways, okay. So first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna go into wireframe view, and I'm going to click right there in the middle, go to the side view, click right there, about where his hips would be. Okay, get it right there in the center, because I'm going to mirror it after I'm done building the side. I've got to warn you, this tutorial might take a little while, since I'm going to build a fairly complex rig. I don't know if I'll go into the shapes and everything like that, but just a word of warning, this might take a little while. Anyways, okay. So I'm gonna spacebar add armature. It goes ahead and puts that in there. I'm gonna drag it down a little bit. Side view. Go ahead and tab into edit mode. I'm gonna drag this all the way up to the top. Right there. I'm gonna grab it. W, subdivide. Actually, Control Z. I want to subdivide it multi. So let's see. What do we want? We want the hip bone, spine bone, the chest, neck, and head. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we need to cut it 4 times. Okay. Down here. Okay. I like to work with B bones because they're just easier to see, for my opinion. Other people might not like B bones so much, but I like them, so I'm going to use them. Okay, just kind of arrange this about how it needs to be. Okay, and come out of wireframe view, and I'm going to turn on X-ray, so this way you can see the skeleton through the mesh that it's going to be in, no matter what angle you're looking at. So just on X-ray right there in your editing buttons. Okay, front view. To save time later, I'm going to go ahead and do this now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to name these bones. So I'll grab the hip bone. I'm going to name this hip. And I grab this one. This one's going to be spine. Oh, excuse me, that's the parent bone. I'm naming the wrong thing. Okay, spine. Make sure I named the right one here. Nope, I didn't. Okay. Hip. And this one's going to be chest. And neck. this will be obviously the head. Okay. And okay, so now I want to go to pose mode. And I'm going to give the spine some more segments. So you see the chest will be flat, but the spine will be the bendy part, and then the neck also needs some segments. So there we go. So now if he like takes a deep breath or something, you know, his rib cage will stay solid while the spine curves. Okay. Go back into edit mode. I'm going to select all these. I'm going to make them real skinny because these are going to be the kind of the structural bones. This is a technique I learned watching the rigging tutorial on the Big Butt Bunny DVD that Nathan Vegdahl talked about. It's basically creating two rigs. One controls the other, but rather than tell you, I'll show you. So anyways, grab all these, Alt-S, and you can change the size of them without just S changing everything. So Alt-S changes the circumference, I guess, of them. So we want them real skinny so we can tell the difference between them later on. Okay. Go back to front view. And while I'm at it, grab all those. And since they're going to be control bones, we kind of want them out of the way. So I'm going to put them in a different bone layer. I'm going to put them in the very last one. Now they're gone because that layer's not turned on. So I turn on that layer and get back to work. Okay, so now I'm going to make the left arm. I'm going to put the cursor right there. Go back to the side view. Line it up with about where the shoulder's going to be. Okay. Add another bone. Move that end down to about the wrist. W, subdivide multi. This one just needs to be cut twice because we're going to have like the shoulder blade bone. Go ahead and move that in some. And the shoulder and the forearm. Okay, go ahead and move these. Line up. Okay. You know, one thing that is probably a good idea at this point too is to go into these bones and turn off deform, because when you apply this armature to your mesh, you don't want, actually take that back, these bones need to deform because these are the structure bones. I'll get to the other part later. The other part will be the control bones basically, and those won't need to deform, so we'll turn those off then. Okay, I guess I'm in pose mode, back into editing mode. Alt-S, resize these guys. Okay, now the ever elusive hand and fingers. I say elusive because sometimes it's hard to get a good hand rig. Okay. Now I'm going to extrude a bone for the hand. Go line it up. I sometimes like to just align it with the middle finger. That's kind of the middle of the hand. So, and if you notice, this bone has kind of got twisted. So what I want to do now is Control N, and it recalculates the roll of the bone. So I'm going to clear the roll, and it's going to go vertically aligned with the Z-axis. And apparently I didn't want to do that, so nothing. Okay. So since that's not working, I'm going to Control R. Okay, no wonder I didn't have the bone. I just had the tip of it selected. Okay. Control N. There we go. So that worked. Or you can, like I said, Control R and control the roll that way. And it's a good idea to turn on your axes right here so you can see which way it's facing. And all the bones on the arm, the Z-axis is pointing this way, and on the hand here it's pointing the opposite way. So I guess that doesn't really make a difference. So I'm not going to worry about it. Okay. Grab the tip of it, move it down some, get it right there on that knuckle of that middle finger. Okay. Now, go to front view. E for extrude. Going to go ahead and pull this down here. So now we have middle finger bone. Control R. Get that Z-axis pointing up. now we're going to subdivide this 2 times. So now we have all of our knuckles. They're a little crooked now. Okay. And let's go ahead and start naming these. I'm just going to copy those here in a short while. So we'll just call this shoulder blade .L, capital L. We name it .L to signify that it's on the left side. So this is going to be, we'll just call it shoulder .L. And this is going to be forearm .L. This will simply be hand.L. Okay. Now when you get into the fingers, can't exactly name it finger.L, so we have to go, we'll call it, kind of gets technical with these names, we'll call it fing, short for finger, mid, start. So we got the finger, middle, which is middle finger, and start, which is the beginning of it. So we'll call that .L. Now, this bone here is going to be the same name, fing, mid, since it's the middle of the middle finger, .L. And this is going to be fing, mid, tip, .L. Okay. Let me use the same naming convention. Go ahead and use that capital M on that one. And a capital T right there. Okay. So we got fing start, fing mid, or fing mid start, fing mid mid, fing mid tip. Okay. Use the same thing for these other fingers. Just select all those. You know what? One more thing that will help later is to go ahead and grab this tip. We're going to extrude out just a little bone here. Clear that axis. Just grab that. Clear the roll. Okay. And this is going to be fing tip. We'll just call this one fing mid .L, fing mid IK.L, because this is going to control the IK constraint of that finger. I'll need to go ahead and turn off the connection and go ahead and just connect it to nothing. Actually, we can connect it to the hand, I suppose. I'll make that clear later why we turned off the connection there. I hope I'm being clear on this tutorial. It might be confusing to some people. But. Okay, so I grabbed all those bones for the middle finger. Shift D, copy them over here. Just rotate in here and get that lined up with that ring finger. Size it normally with the S button instead of Alt S like I showed you before. That's just for the circumference of the bones. We've already got them the circumference we need, so now we're just using the regular S just to resize the basic size, so lines up. Okay, a little bit bigger. We want that tip bone to be on the tip, not the IK to be on the tip. This is kind of monotonous now because it's like a lot of the same stuff over and over. Okay, so those are pretty well lined up. Go ahead and grab the middle fingers again. Deep. Copy them over for the index finger. Okay, that's pretty well lined up, I guess. Okay. Now, renaming. That's one of the tedious things about this. So this is going to be fing ring start.L. It's the ring finger. Ring mid.L. Okay. Fing tip.L. And since I copied all these, it's putting, you know, the number 001 after them, and the pinky will be 002, and the index will be 003. Ring IK.L. Okay. Pinky. So instead of mid, it'll be pinky this is the boring part of the rigging, naming everything, but you have to name them, otherwise you won't be able to use the copy and paste mirror or any of that kind of stuff. This just makes it easier in the long run, but it is tedious. So this will be index start. Okay, so that's right. Okay, good. Okay. All right, and now the thumb. Go ahead and grab all these. Get that lined up. Control R brings up the gizmo for the rotator. Okay. The thumb's it's constructed a little differently from your fingers. It's almost like it's got one fewer knuckle. See, I'm looking at my hand trying to figure this out here. So, yeah. So I could actually get rid of this bone if I wanted to. I might as well. Okay. Okay, now rename this thumb. And this is going to be start because we deleted the other start because we didn't need it. .l, clear out those numbers. And tip. Okay. And blade almost there. Alright. Okay. So this is basic construction of the hand. Okay, moving on. Go ahead and do the leg. Move that cursor where we want it. Excuse me. Add a bone. Drag that down. Go ahead and subdivide this. We don't need multi, just need one. Okay. Move that to where the kneecap is. Rotate that a little bit so it's evenly bent. Okay. Shift S, I'm going to snap the cursor to my selection there. Go ahead and put in another bone for the foot. And just go ahead and bring it out there. Alt Control G brings up the location gizmos. Subdivide that so we have a toe. Okay. Grab all these guys. Alt S to change their circumference. Okay. And rename this thigh.l. Shin.l. And foot.l. And toe.l. Okay. There are some tutorials that show you a really in-depth leg, like how to make it roll on the toe and the heel by using two separate bones, but I'm not going to show you that because honestly I don't really remember how it goes, so I'll just make this kind of a basic rigging tutorial. Basic / advanced. Okay, So anyways, we got all of our basic bones for the body. So now I need to grab all of them. I'm going to Shift D, duplicate them. If you want to move them around, you can see that. Right click to undo that moving around. And I'm going to I'm going to move them to this first layer. Go back over here. And now I'm going to Alt S, resize them. So these are going to be our controller bones. And now all of these, we can take off that deform like I was talking about earlier. And actually we can get rid of all these finger bones because we don't need them in this controller setup. Sometimes it's easier just to hit B and just drag a box over them all instead of trying to click on all of them. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and turn off those axes. They're just getting in my way right now. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn on that last layer too so we can see the bones, the control bones. Oh, let me go back one more time. Go back in here and do like I said. Turn off deform for all these controllers because that's what the other bones are for. And these bones will control the movement of the other bones. So these don't need to do anything except that. So we turn off this deform. So when we apply the mesh to this armature or vice versa, these won't have anything to do with the mesh itself. They control the bones on the other layer, which in turn control the mesh. So these control the controllers, basically. I don't know. Does that make sense? Anyways, okay. Let's see, where am I at? Okay, now we start setting up all of our IK chains and things like that. Okay, turn on that layer. I'm going to go in here, grab the tip of it. I'm going to Shift S, cursor to selection. I'm going to spacebar, add a bone. And now I'm going to go down here to the very tip, right here. Shift S, cursor to selection. I'm going to grab this bone, the tip of the new bone, Shift S, and I'm going to go selection to cursor. And it's going to pop that perfectly lined up with the finger. Or not lined up per se. Well, it's lined up, but it needs to be rotated a little bit. So I'm going to scale it down just a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to Control R. I'm going to rotate it until it's evenly rotated with the bones of the finger. I'm going to go ahead and turn back on the axis so I can make sure it's lined up, and it is not. It's a good thing I did that. See, these finger bones, the Z-axis is pointing up, as you can see. Rotate this a little bit. Well, that Z is hard to see. Anyways, it's pointing in this direction, the direction of this red arrow. So therefore, I need to rotate this to where its Z-axis is also pointing up. And there we go. Now it's lined up with the finger. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Shift S, cursor to selection, add a bone. Down here, Shift S, cursor selection, selection to cursor, Alt S, resize, and Control R to line this guy up. There we go. And same thing over here, Shift S, cursor to selection, add a bone, cursor selection, Shift S, selection to cursor. Grab that, Alt S, resize, and Control R. Rotate that so the Z-axis is pointing up. Come on. There we go. Alright. Make that a little smaller, Alt S just a little bit more. Okay. Cursor to selection, add a bone. Cursor. Alt S. Control R. Now it's important that these new controller fingers are rotated evenly with the fingers themselves, because they will also control how they bend and rotate them. They'll control the rotation of the finger bones themselves. That'll make more sense here in a little bit. Okay. Finally, one more. Cursor to selection, add bone. Selection to cursor. This. Control R. Okay. Now gets to the fun part. Actually, I need to rename everything. Okay. Now as controller, we name it con or CTR. L. That's too many. I'm gonna name it con. Or heck, just C. C pinky.l. Okay. C stands for control. C ring.l. C mid.l. C index.l. and C thumb.l. Okay. And now the rest of the bones. This has C in front of it. And get rid of that number at the end. Okay. On these center bones, like the head, neck, spine, all that, you don't have to put a L or R at the end, because obviously they are in the middle and not on the left or right side. Almost done. Huh. That's a chip. See hip? Get it? Okay. C thigh. C shin. C foot. And finally C toe. Got L. These are got L. Yep. Okay. Okay. Now I think we're ready to start playing with the inverse kinematics, which is IK for short. Okay, turn off the axes. I don't need them anymore. Alright. One thing I'm going to do real quick is size these fairly small so that I can tell the difference really well between those two. Let me see. I think there's a way to turn. There we go. If you go into your object button, you can turn on wire right here so you can see everything you're working with. That makes it a little easier to see what you're doing. Okay, so I guess the first thing I'm going to start with is I'm going to attach the original head bone to the controller bone, head bone. So the way I'm going to do that is, let me do this. It's been a while since I've rigged a character like this, so I'm going to Control-Alt-C, copy location. No, opposite. I need to select. Yes, okay. Select the outer bone first, then the inner bone, because they're basically on top of each other. The bigger one and the smaller one. The smaller ones are the actual bones, and the bigger ones are the controller bones. So select the controller bone and the actual bone. Control-Alt-C, copy location. Control-C, copy rotation. So now, anywhere that this bone is and any way that it rotates, the controller, the actual bone will follow. See? Alright, so now we need to do that with every bone. Control C, copy rotation, copy location. Now these keyboard shortcuts are obviously for Windows users. I'm not sure the keyboard shortcuts for you Linux guys and Mac guys, but I'm sure you know the equivalent thereof. Keyboard shortcuts are very good to know. Save you a lot of time. Rotation and location. Oops. Wrong thing. Okay, something happened there. Let me Control Z out of here. Okay. Love that undo. I wish I had it in real life sometimes. Help me get out of a lot of hairy situations. Okay. So now we've got our controller bones that control the actual bones. You're probably thinking, what's the point of making all these bones, all these controller bones? Why can't we just animate the bones themselves? Well, you can do that. You can do that for sure. It works just fine. Actually, I think I'm forgetting the... Okay, I got that one. Okay, this one still needs the copy rotation. And I believe this one does too. Yep. Copy location and copy rotation. Okay, the reason that I made the control bones is, well, that's kind of the way Nathan Vigdal showed me how to do it. He explains it really well. I don't remember exactly what he says, but it's good practice, especially if you're rigging for someone else to be animating. If you're doing all the work, you can rig it however you want as long as it works. But for someone else, this is a little more organized. Okay, one trick that I've learned just by playing around, which I haven't seen, a lot of times when you rig up your hand like this and you go to curl the finger or something like that, the bones want to pop out of place and rotate in weird ways. And one way that they fix that in some of the other tutorials I've seen is they made these little bones way out here that these bones would point to. Well, I found a technique that's a little easier than that. You don't have to create those bones up in the air floating around. What you do is you kind of do the same thing that we were doing up here. You grab this bone, which is the little bone on this time since I made it smaller, in this way. Control C, copy location, and copy rotation. That way, whenever you move this guy, it's gonna follow it no matter what. It's not gonna pop out of place. That's the importance of getting it rotated, lined up when I was talking about it earlier. Let me turn these guys off. Huh, I ought to accidentally created some keyframes. Go ahead and delete those. Delete, nothing. Oh, okay, I need to go to action editor. Getting off point here. You all, nothing? Okay. Okay, anyways. So, all those finger bones are now following the controller bone because I had them follow its rotation. I had the base, the start of the finger bones, copy its location and rotation. Okay, now I'm going to grab this IK that I made, going to go back into edit mode, and it's going to attach, it's going to be parented to the controller bone. So I'm going to just select that, select the IK bone first, and then shift, you know what, let me grab all these and put them kind of on their own layer, just right there, just for now. Now, okay, this will be easier. Parent those to those because these are going to control the finger bending. Kind of a neat little trick. Okay, now go ahead and grab all those. Go ahead and put them back on that final, the last layer there. Okay, because now what I'm going to do, back into pose mode, grab that IK bone, and I'm going to grab the first fingertip bone, Shift I, add IK constraint to active bone, and you can see it turns yellow. That means it has IK constraint applied to it. And we want to change the chain length to 1 would be right here, 2, 3. So we're going to change it to a length of 3. So now I grab this controller bone. Not only will the finger follow its rotation, no matter which way it's rotated, but when I scale it, it's going to bend the finger. Because see, what's happening is this IK bone is attached to the end of this controller. So when I scale the controller, that IK bone follows the length of that, and the IK constraint attached to this fingertip follows that bone. So scale that, boom, boom, boom. So that's what I'm going to do on the rest of these fingers. Okay. Control C, copy rotation, copy location. Go ahead and do that on all these guys real quick. Grab the little one first. C. Okay. You might notice when I copy the location rotation, it pops it down a little bit. But after I get that IK chain attached like it needs to be, it puts it right back up to where it needs to go. Okay. Okay, and now Shift I, 1, 2, 3. Shift I, 1, 2, 3. Oops, wrong one. Shift I, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and finally Shift I. Thumb only has 2 bones, so it's only got the chain length is only going to be 2. Okay. So now thumb bone controls the thumb and its rotation. It's a little crooked there, isn't it? It's a little odd. Looks like they're not lined up properly to begin with, so we need to fix that. It's not a straight line. There. Now, there we go. That's a little off too. Go ahead and go in here. That's not perfect, but you get the idea. Okay, that'll work. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this hand bone, go into edit mode, and I'm going to disconnect it from the forearm, and I'm going to just set it to have no parent at all. So now when I move it, nothing happens. But this guy, I need to go in there and excuse me, I'm a little sleepy, so my thoughts might be a little scattered. Go ahead and disconnect this guy too. And now, there we go. So what I need to do is I need to parent all the controller fingers to the controller bone. Keep the offset. There we go. Alright. Let's see, there was a technique I used that allowed you to rotate the forearm while still being connected. Let's see, let's go ahead and go back in here. Go ahead and attach that back to the forearm. Let's give the forearm some segments. See if this works. No? I'll have to think about that one. Ah, I think that needs to be connected. No? Let me pause this and play with it a few seconds, and then I'll show you. Be right back. Okay, easy fix. What did I do here? Okay, go back to control mode. I parented it to the wrong form. If you notice, it's parented as C forearm, which is the control forearm, so it needs to be the normal form. Okay, so now when I rotate it, the forearm follows, which is kind of weird right now because it's following a weird path there. So what we need to do is grab that, and this is set to be a Bezier curve. We don't need it to curve, we just need it to spin around. So we need to set the in to 0, and we need to set the out to 0. So now it's not going to bow up. Excuse me, it's not going to bow up at all. It's just going to spin. There we go. So now we got the forearm kind of spinning around to match where the hand is at. Okay. So I'll see just to clear that rotation. Alrighty. So now we need to make the arm have an IK chain. So it's going to go, I'm going to select the hand. Let's go ahead and rename this real quick. C hand IK dot L. Shift and control that. Shift I. And 1, 2, and 3. Boom. There we go. It's a little weird though because the IK is going all the way up to the shoulder, and we don't necessarily want that all the time. So I'm going to clear that location. I'm going to grab this and change the length down to 2. So there we go. So now we can control the whole movement of the arm just by where the hand is. He wants to shake your hand. Okay, clear that out. Alt R clears rotation, Alt G clears the location. And if you notice, it doesn't exactly bend the way it needs to right away. So let's go into edit mode and let's drag this out a little bit this way, so the elbow knows which direction it should bend. That's better. That's better. You know, on top of that, we can even kind of do like I'm sleepy. Sorry. Add a elbow control bone out here, kind of the way they did the fingers before, where you control which direction it's facing. So what we're going to do, go to edit mode, add another bone, just make it pretty small. We'll just call this one elbow.L. Okay? And see if I can do this right. Grab this guy, Shift I, add IK constraint. Is this going to work? Just hit 1. That way you can kind of, when this moves, that upper arm follows it. So grab the hand, move it over. There we go. Wherever that's moving, that's the way the arm's going to bend. So say he wants to do like a, well, he's a little Oktoberfest guy, so say he wants to do the chicken dance thing where he's flapping his elbows like chicken wings. Just do right? Okay. Select all this, Alt G, Alt R. Okay. Now, gonna do the same thing with the leg. Like I said before, I won't get into a real extensive leg rig. This will just be a basic one. similar to the wrist. Just select the foot and then the shin, Shift I, and give the IK chain a length of 2. There you go. And we're going to do the same thing we did with the elbow. Just go out here front, go to edit mode, add bone, and let's move him over to where he's more in front of the knee. And knee is what we will name this one, knee.l. Okay. Grab that. Actually, grab that one first, and then that. Shift I, and chain length of 1. Now, just sit with his legs crossed. Just gotta do that. Piece of cake. Piece of cake. Okay. So now we got his left side done. So what we need to do is I did all the IK and everything just so I'd only have to do it once. So now I go back into edit mode, and what I'm going to do now is go to Wireframe and go ahead and set that cursor right in the middle. See where I'm at here? Set it right in the middle, right there. So it's right in the center of him. And now I'm going to change the scaling pivot, rotation and scaling pivot, to the 3D cursor. So now, if you rotate anything, it's going to rotate around that where the cursor is. See, rather than its own rotation is rotating around that. So that's handy. Go back into solid view, viewport shading. Select all those bones there on his left side. Good. And I'm going to Shift D, and it's going to duplicate. Move them around, see? And I'm going to scale, hit S. On the x-axis, -1. Boom. And it made a mirror image of them. So now, go back out of edit mode, and the IK constraints are already applied. So you don't have to do everything twice. However, if you notice up here, all these bones now have a .001 after them. So what I need to do, go ahead and select them all. Go back in edit mode. I'm going to go to Armature, auto name, no. It's going to go flip left and right names. Boom. And it automatically renamed all these .L.001 to R's. So now on this side, you got your shoulder blade.L. This side, you got shoulder blade.R. Automatically renamed for you. So that's awesome. So say, the reason we put the L and R after it, I'm still rotating around the pivot. I need to change that back to the median point. Okay. The reason you want the L and R after it, so you can, if you want to model something, say like he's got his hands together, like he's about to pray or something like that. Just model the one hand, and then you hit, and we'll go ahead and grab the elbow too, and hit copy that current pose, paste that same pose to the opposite hand. So now, it's all you gotta do. Okay. Select everything, Alt-G, Alt-R, back to that. Okay, now the rig is pretty well done. Well, basically. I mean, you still want to probably go in and do the face rig, but you can watch that in my other tutorial if you like. So now what you want to do is apply the mesh to the armature, to the rig. So what you do is you grab that mesh, hold down Shift, select one of the bones in the armature. You want to Control P. You're parenting it to it, but you're not parenting it to that bone. You're parenting it to the armature. And most of the time, I usually say don't create groups, because then I go in there and create the groups all myself. But for time's sake, we'll just say create from bone heat, and that's gonna kind of take the radius around all the bones and intuitively apply the Oh, one thing I forgot about this mesh is it's only half there. It's got a mirror modifier on it. So let me back up before I applied that. Go ahead and apply my mirror so it's one big model. There we go. Okay, now Control P, Armature from bone heat. Okay, now grab your hand and the arm moves around. As you notice, the arms and legs are not attached to the body, so that's something we need to do. So let's go ahead and grab the controller bones, and since the actual bones follow wherever the controller bones are, we don't really need to parent those, we just need to parent the controllers. Okay, so grab both of the shoulder bones, and we're going to go select the chest bone, Control P, keep the offset, and same thing for the thighs, to the hips, Control P, keep the offset. Okay, now, there we go. Alright, so that's basically how you rig a character. You know what, one thing I found out that I had to find out on my own, just this example right here. If you rotate the hand, sometimes the forearm acts really funny. One thing that helps that, it doesn't cure it 100%. But one thing that helps that is if you go into edit mode, get that forearm and disconnect it from the shoulder bone. It's still attached to it, but it's not connected to it at that point. Go ahead and do the same thing on this arm. Now you have a little bit more freedom. Well, I say that. Oh, looks like that's kind of jacked up to begin with. Well, anyways. It's like rotated to 180 degrees more than it should be. Let's see. There we go. Did that work? Now let's select everything. Kind of, but now it's all. Okay, anyways, you get the idea. So, go ahead and grab these eyeballs. And shift. Now with Control P, we want them to the bone. We don't want to create the armature for that. Okay. So that's basically how I do my rigging when I rig. So now you know, and knowing is half the battle. Alright, that's all for now. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully I taught you something. But anyways, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.